The first sign came as a shimmer across the edge of the solar rim, faint, delicate, almost beautiful. Then the shimmer grew teeth. In the cold silence between Mars and Jupiter, 1,000 alien ships appeared like cracks in glass. They moved in perfect silence, gliding through the void with a grace no human craft could match. Their hulls shimmered with unknown energy, and their formation was flawless, precise as mathematics, cold as inevitability. The Ardent Dawn, a Terran command vessel, was the first to see them. Captain Alara Quinn stood at the viewing deck, her eyes reflecting the faint blue of the oncoming fleet. She said nothing at first, she only watched. Behind her, the crew held their breath, for even without words they understood. Humanity's greatest fear had arrived. The alien armada sent no greeting, no warning, only a signal, a pulse of light and data that every Terran sensor recognized as a declaration of intent. Eradication. Earth had always believed that if war ever came from the stars, humanity would unite. For once, the old divisions dissolved. Nations, politics, and borders vanished under a single banner. Humanity first. The Terran Defense Network came alive. Orbitals aligned, railguns charged, and shipyards that had slept for decades roared awake. Every ship that could fly was armed. Every human who could fight was called, and so it began. The battle at the edge of Sol was unlike any before. The alien fleet opened fire first. Lances of light crossed millions of kilometers in seconds, cutting through asteroid belts and vaporizing defensive stations. Entire formations vanished under waves of plasma and silent explosions. But humanity did not die quietly. The first human counterstrike was clumsy, desperate but furious. Thousands of missiles screamed into the void, guided not just by AI but by human instinct. Pilots flew their fighters through impossible trajectories, weaving through energy storms and collapsing shields. Captain Ilara's voice carried through the comms, steady and calm even as the hull groaned under impact. "Hold your lines," she said. "They think we'll break. Show them we do not." Her fleet obeyed. The aliens had never fought anyone like humans before. They had fought empires that surrendered when logic dictated defeat. They had fought species that valued survival over honor. But humans fought with something that defied every calculation. They fought with memory, love, rage, hope. The strange, unquantifiable force that made them impossible to predict. When the first alien flagship fell, it was not due to superior firepower. It was because a single damaged human frigate, the Resolute, refused to retreat. Her engines were failing, her oxygen leaking, her weapons empty, and yet her captain, a man named Jonas Hale, steered her straight into the heart of the enemy vessel. The collision lit the void like a second sun. From Earth's night sky, for one brief instant, people looked up and saw a new star flicker then vanish. They did not know its name. But in that moment, every human heart beat a little faster, because someone, somewhere, had refused to yield. As the day turned to night, and night to dawn again, the battle raged on. The void between planets filled with wreckage, fragments of ships, frozen bodies, and burning trails of debris. Both sides bled light and fire, but in command centers across the system, the whisper began to spread. The aliens are falling back. Ilara's bridge was a storm of smoke and alarms when the last enemy vessel withdrew. Her ship was barely holding together, half her crew gone, her engines crippled. But her voice carried strength. "Transmit to all surviving units," she ordered. "We hold Sol. Humanity stands." And across the broken fleet, battered and burning, came the reply, faint, static-filled, but unmistakable. "Humanity stands." On that day, they named it the day the sky burned. Billions mourned. Millions celebrated. And in the quiet after the war front flickered dark, a simple truth was born among the stars. No one and no empire, no machine, no god had ever fought humanity and left unscarred. And though no one yet knew it, this was only the beginning, for the aliens would return. And when they did, they would learn again what the universe was beginning to whisper in awe. No one survived fighting humanity. The stars were quiet now. Too quiet. After the battle that scorched the heavens, the silence felt wrong, as if the universe itself held its breath, listening for what humanity would do next. On Earth, cities were shrouded in morning light. Digital banners of remembrance floated over every skyline, carrying the names of the lost. Some streets glowed red for soldiers who never returned. Others blue for those still missing among the stars. In the capital of New Geneva, Captain Alara Quinn stood before the great memorial spire. The monument was simple, a column of black glass stretching toward the clouds, etched with a single phrase. They stood when the stars burned. She traced her fingers over the names carved there. Friends, crew, family, each one a story cut short. For every name there was a song unfinished, a promise unkept. Behind her the sound of footsteps echoed softly. It was Admiral Marcus Vale, older, slower now, his once proud uniform worn and patched. He stopped beside her and looked up at the spire with eyes that had seen too much. "They say victory costs what defeat cannot pay," he murmured. Alara nodded. "If this is victory, Admiral, I fear what defeat would have been." He smiled faintly, not with joy but with that tired affection soldiers share when words fail. "You gave them hope, Alara. That's something they can't calculate. That's something only humans have." Across the colonies, the rebuilding had begun. Mars, still scarred from orbital bombardment, became the beating heart of the new Terran Unity fleet. Shipyards rose like steel forests, their cranes and engines roaring day and night. Children watched the skies from shattered cities and dreamed not of peace, but of readiness. On Europa's ice fields, memorials were carved into the frozen plains, sculptures of fire frozen mid-dance, of hands reaching for stars. On Luna, a schoolteacher began a tradition. Every child would learn the names of the ships that fell defending Sol. By the second year, there were too many names to remember. Still, they tried. And above them all, the Terran Council met in secrecy, their discussions heavy with fear. The aliens, known now as the Krith, had vanished beyond the edges of mapped space. Their last transmissions, decoded weeks later, were hauntingly simple. They resist. They must be unmade. Humanity knew what that meant. They would come again, stronger, colder, ready to erase the mistake they had made in underestimating mankind. So humanity prepared. On the Ardent Dawn, repaired and renamed Ardent Reborn, Alara returned to command. The crew was new, younger faces, steadier hands, but the spirit remained unchanged. Her second officer, Lieutenant Rian Solis, was quiet, brilliant, and too calm for his age. He had been a child during the first invasion, a boy who had watched his home burn on the horizon of Mars. When he spoke, his words were deliberate. "Captain," he said one evening, standing on the bridge as Jupiter's storms rolled beneath them, "do you ever think they'll understand us?" Alara turned her gaze toward the void. "Understand? The Krith, why we fight the way we do. Why we never stop." She paused, thinking. "Maybe not. They look at us and see chaos. They see creatures bound by emotion, by grief, by love. Things they think make us weak. But they don't understand that those are the things that make us human." Ryan nodded slowly. "And that's what they fear most." Far beyond the rim of known space, in the cold shadows of a dying star, the Krith convened. Their voices were not heard but transmitted through vibrations of thought, a communion of will. The human anomaly persists, one mind pulsed. "Their logic is chaos. Their losses strengthen them," another replied, colder than vacuum. "Then we adapt. We erase their memory. No emotion. No return." But deep within the Krith collective, one fragment, one spark, had hesitated. It had studied the humans more closely than the others. It had seen their songs, their faces, their fire, and something within it changed ever so slightly. "Perhaps there is something to learn from them," it whispered to itself. The others did not hear. Back in Sol, under the light of Earth's fragile sun, Alara received a message from command. One simple line: "Recon mission approved. Deep space operation, codename Horizon Vale. Objective: locate the Krith." She closed her eyes. The calm before the storm was ending. When she opened them again, her voice was steady. "Set course for the Vale," she said. "If they're coming for us, we'll meet them first." The stars outside the viewport shimmered. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were coming. And the universe, vast, ancient, unfeeling, would soon remember again what it meant to face humankind. Beyond Neptune, the light of the sun was faint and cold. Stars here no longer twinkled. They stared, silent, unblinking witnesses to what was to come. The ardent reborn glided through the darkness like a blade through shadow. Her hull still bore the scars of Saul's defense, each mark a story, each dent a memory. She was no longer just a ship. She was a symbol. Captain Alara Quinn stood at her command post, her reflection cast in the dim blue glow of the navigation displays. Around her, the hum of the engines was steady, rhythmic, the pulse of something alive. "Status report," she said quietly. Lieutenant Ryan Solis looked up from his console. Courses locked on the horizon veil. Estimated arrival in 43 hours. No anomalies detected. Yet, Alara repeated softly. "That's the word that always finds us." The crew smiled faintly even through their fatigue. They knew her tone, that mix of dry humor and iron resolve that had carried them through the First War. The horizon veil was a name given to the outer edge of mapped space, a region where sensors faltered, and physics itself seemed to hesitate. Strange signals had been recorded there for decades, echoes and distortions that no human mind could fully explain. Some said it was the border of the Krith's domain. Others called it the edge of creation. To Alara, it was simply a destination. The fleet accompanying the ardent reborn, 3 cruisers, a carrier, and 12 escort ships, moved in formation, their navigation lights like faint stars in a sea of black. Every transmission was encrypted, every system on silent mode. They traveled not in arrogance but in reverence, as if approaching something sacred or cursed. 43 hours later, the veil appeared. At first, it was invisible. Then slowly the void ahead shimmered, a distortion like heat on glass, vast and living. It stretched from one side of the cosmos to the other, a curtain of shifting light that pulsed in colors no spectrum could name. Ryan whispered, "By the stars." Even Alara felt her breath catch. For a long moment, the bridge was utterly silent. "Scan it," she ordered finally. The sensors came alive, beams of data racing into the unknown. The readings that returned were wrong. Gravity fields bending at impossible angles. Time differentials measured in heartbeats. Energy spikes that matched no known pattern. "It's not natural," Ryan said. "It's inbuilt, or maybe grown." Ilara's hand tightened around the railing. "Built by whom?" The answer came not from her crew, but from the stars themselves. A ripple moved through the veil, a tremor of light. Then another. And then, like a wound opening in reality, a shadow emerged. The Krith. At first it was one ship, sleek, curved, silent. Then another. Then hundreds. They slipped through the veil like predators through tall grass, their hulls reflecting faint starlight. No sound, no signal, no warning. The bridge of the ardent reborn filled with alarms. "Multiple contacts," Ryan shouted. "Energy signatures? Matching the Krith fleet?" Ilara's jaw said. "All ships. Defensive formation Gamma. Keep weapons cold until I give the word." The Krith ships circled like vultures, their movements eerily synchronized. No message came, no demand. Only stillness, the same cold patience they had shown before the first invasion, and then something different. One of the alien ships drifted forward, smaller, unarmed, its hull glowing faintly. It stopped just beyond firing range. From it, a pulse of light flickered toward the ardent reborn. A message. "Put it through," Alara said. The main display filled with a shifting, translucent figure, humanoid in outline but composed entirely of light. Its voice was a harmony of tones like wind through crystal. "Children of Sol," it said. "You should not have come here." Alara stood firm. "We came for answers." "You attacked us. You killed billions. We deserve to know why." There was silence. Then the figure tilted its head slightly as if studying her. "You resist the order of existence," it said. "You are chaos given form. Your survival defies logic. We destroy chaos and you for the balance of all." Alara stepped closer, her voice steady. "Then your balance is built on fear, and you will never erase what you don't understand." The light flickered. "Then you will burn again." The transmission cut off. The veil erupted. Waves of energy cascaded outward, shaking every ship in the fleet. Alarms blared, shields flared, and the dark once again became fire. Alara's voice cut through the chaos, calm and sharp as steel. "All ships, return fire." Missiles streaked into the black. Lasers cut through the void. The second war for humanity had begun, not in defense, but in defiance, and as the ardent reborn surged forward, engines blazing, Alara whispered under her breath, not as a curse, but as a promise. No one survives fighting humanity. War in space is not a sound, but a light. Fierce, silent, endless. And now, beyond the horizon veil, the void blazed once more. The ardent reborn charged through the storm, its engines flaring blue against the ink of the cosmos. Plasma fire arced across the fleet's shields, painting brief suns in the dark. Around it, human ships danced a deadly waltz, burning, breaking, yet never retreating. The Krith fleet fought with cold precision, their formations fluid, perfect, beautiful in their cruelty. Every movement was calculated, every strike executed with mathematical grace. They fought as one mind, a harmony of will, but humanity fought with something deeper, chaos, creativity, defiance. Where the Krith moved like a song, humans roared like a storm. Captain Alara Quinn gripped the command railing as the bridge trembled under impact. "Status," she called. "Shields at 42%. Lieutenant Ryan Solis shouted. "We've lost comms with the Dauntless. The Krith are cutting through the flank." "Reroute auxiliary power to the port cannons," Alara ordered. "Target their command ship and the one directing their formations." Her voice was calm, but her heart pounded like a drum. She could almost feel the weight of billions of lives behind her, Earth watching, waiting, praying. Outside, the ardent reborn turned hard, thrusters blazing. Its cannons lit up, unleashing volleys of kinetic fire that tore through the darkness. Each shot was a heartbeat of vengeance, each explosion a scream of defiance. Ryan's console flickered. "Direct hit," he cried. "They're scattering." For a brief, shining moment, the Krith line wavered, and humanity surged forward like a wave of fire. Elsewhere in the fleet, the Resolute II, named for the frigate that had sacrificed itself in the First War, was burning. Its captain, Mara Ilian, knew she wouldn't survive the next strike. Her hull was breached, her reactor unstable, but her hands never stopped moving. "All remaining drones lock onto my signal," she said. "We're going to take them with us." Her first officer stared at her, pale. "Captain, that'll save lives," she finished softly. "And maybe buy us a tomorrow." With that, she smiled, the quiet smile of someone who had made peace with fate, and engaged the drive. The explosion that followed was silent, but the light reached across the stars. When it faded, 5 Krith ships were gone. So was the Resolute II. Alara watched the burst from the bridge of the Reborn. Her hand trembled just once. "Goodbye, Mara," she whispered. Hours bled into days. The battle did not end. It transformed. The humans adapted and unpredictably, relentlessly. Every Krith tactic they faced, they twisted, learned, reshaped. They fought not as soldiers following orders, but as artists creating survival. And slowly, impossibly, the Krith began to falter. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced something they could not calculate. Humanity's resilience was not logic. It was emotion turned into power. The Krith high mind watched from its core ship, a vast construct of living metal, orbiting the shattered edge of the veil. Within, millions of thoughts converged, trying to understand. They lose. They suffer. Yet they persist. Why? No equation held the answer. No model explained the fury of those fragile creatures from Sol. But one Krith fragment, the same spark that had once questioned, whispered into the shared consciousness. Perhaps they fight not to win, but to be remembered. The others ignored it. Yet the idea lingered like a seed in stone. On the 7th day of battle, silence fell again. The Krith ships withdrew, vanishing beyond the veil. The human fleet, embloodied, broken, half destroyed, held their position. Smoke drifted through the ardent Reborn's corridors. Injured crew worked beside the living, patching wounds, repairing systems with trembling hands. Alara stood at the viewport, staring at the shimmering remnants of the veil. Rian approached quietly. "They're gone. For now," she said. "But they'll return. They always do." He hesitated. "Captain, was it worth it?" She turned to face him. Her eyes were weary but fierce. "Every life we still have says yes." He nodded, then looked out at the veil again. What do you think is beyond that? Ilara's voice softened. The truth. Maybe something older than both of us. Maybe something waiting to see what we'll become. Back on Earth, the transmissions arrived 3 weeks later. Humanity listened in stunned silence as the reports unfolded. The impossible victory, the unending loss, the burning skies beyond the veil. And when the final message played, the voice of Captain Ilara Quinn echoed across the stars. We found them. We faced them. And we stand still. Humanity lives. Humanity remembers. For the second time, the universe learned the lesson carved into the void itself. No one survived fighting humanity. Weeks passed. The smoke of war thinned, but the silence it left behind was heavier than the sound of any battle. The ardent reborn drifted near the edge of the horizon veil, its hull dim under the pale light of a distant dying star. The crew repaired what they could. Hull breaches sealed, systems recalibrated, wounds treated, but the quiet, the stillness, was something no engineer could fix. Captain Ilara Quinn sat alone in her quarters, listening to the faint hum of the engines. Her logbook floated before her in the holographic light. She spoke softly, her voice almost a whisper. Day 34 beyond the veil. The Krith have vanished. No new signals, no signs of pursuit. But there's something out there. The instruments pick up faint transmissions, rhythmic, deliberate, almost like a heartbeat. We're going to follow it. She paused, looking at the stars through her window. If this is a trap, then it's one we'll face standing. She ended the log, straightened her uniform, and stepped onto the bridge. The transmission came from deep within an uncharted system, a starless expanse known as the Silent Belt. At its center orbited a single planet, black, barren and utterly lifeless. No atmosphere, no light. Yet beneath its surface, sensors detected faint energy readings, ancient, stable, and powerful. Lieutenant Ryan Solis adjusted the controls, scanning the planet once more. It's artificial, he said. No geological formation could produce that signal pattern. Ilara's gaze fixed on the holographic sphere before them. Then it's not a world, she said. It's a vault. The bridge fell silent. The word carried weight. Humanity had found many strange ruins scattered through the galaxy, silent remnants of civilizations long dead. But this felt different. This world was alive in its stillness, as though it was waiting. The ardent reborn descended cautiously, its thrusters cutting through the thin dust of the planet's surface. The hull trembled as they entered orbit. When the landing team touched down, the silence was absolute. No wind, no echo, not even the hum of the ship's systems. The black sand under their boots absorbed all sound, as if the world itself was swallowing every trace of existence. Captain, Ryan said quietly, glancing at the readings on his wrist display. The energy signature is below us, deep underground. They moved forward, guided by scanners and instinct. Before long they found it, an entrance buried beneath glassy rock, a vast arch of unknown metal covered in glowing symbols. Ilara brushed her gloved hand across them. The symbols shifted under her touch, rearranging themselves into forms that made her heart race, not because they were alien, but because they looked familiar. Ryan, she breathed. Do you see that? He stared. It's written in a pattern like Terran code. Binary, someone adapted it. Someone or something that studied us. They entered the vault. Inside was a cathedral of light, massive pillars rising into darkness, walls pulsing faintly with energy. In the center stood a structure that resembled both a monument and a machine, a crystalline obelisk humming with silent purpose. And within it, something moved, a shimmer, faint and human-shaped. Ilara stepped closer. This isn't Krith technology, she said. This is older. Suddenly the obelisk pulsed. Light flared, blinding and warm. A voice, neither male nor female, but filled with emotion, echoed through their minds. At last, you have come. Ilara froze. Identify yourself. I am the echo, the memory of what came before. I am all that remains of the first builders. Ryan exchanged a look with her. First builders. Captain, those are legends, myths from early exploration logs. Not myths, the echo replied. Truth buried in fear. We created the Krith. Long ago we built them to preserve balance and to destroy what threatened the order of life. But when we vanished, they forgot their purpose. They obeyed the law without the wisdom that birthed it. Ilara's heart pounded. They were created to protect life? Yes, the echo whispered, the light dimming sadly. But now they only destroy what they cannot understand. Youth and humanity are the first to make them question again. The light flickered, weakening. Why tell us this? Ilara asked. Why now? Because you must choose, it said. To destroy them, or to remind them why they were made. Then the light faded completely, leaving only silence. Hours later, aboard the Ardent Reborn, the crew gathered in the command chamber. The recording played again over and over. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Ryan said, If this is true, Captain, then we're not just fighting a war. We're fighting our own creation's children. Ilara looked at the stars beyond the viewport, vast, infinite, merciless. Then it's time, she said softly, for humanity to teach its children what mercy means. And with that, she gave the order, set course for Krith Prime. The crew stiffened, a mix of fear and awe. For beyond that dark horizon lay the heart of their enemy, and perhaps the heart of their own history. The journey to Krith Prime was long and silent. The Ardent Reborn and its battered fleet cut through the veil like knives, the void outside a perfect black mirror, stars stretched and blurred in hyperspace, but inside the crew felt the weight of every life lost, every world burned and every choice that had led them here. Captain Ilara Quinn stood at the command deck, eyes fixed on the faint shimmer that marked Krith Prime. We're entering their system, she said. Her voice was steady, but inside her chest tightened. Lieutenant Ryan Solis looked up from his console. Sensors show hundreds of ships in orbit. Shields active, weapons ready. They've been waiting. Ilara nodded. Then we'll give them a reason to remember humanity. Krith Prime was unlike any world humans had ever seen. Its surface was black crystal, jagged mountains cutting into a violet sky. Rivers of glowing energy flowed like molten metal, feeding colossal spires that pierced the clouds. The planet seemed alive, pulsing with thought and awareness. From orbit, the Krith fleet descended. They moved as one, swarming like living shadows. And at the center, larger than any other, was the Krith High Mind, the culmination of a civilization's perfection and cruelty. Its form shimmered, an enormous structure of living metal and energy, radiating intelligence that weighed on every mind within range. Ilara's fingers gripped the railing. We're not here to die, she said to her crew. We're here to make them understand humanity. The first salvo was chaos incarnate. Plasma storms tore through orbit, shattering escort ships, but humans did not retreat. Instead, they adapted instantly, weaving through fire, predicting trajectories, attacking in patterns the Krith could not anticipate. Ryan watched the battlefield in awe. Captain, they're faltering. Our patterns are breaking their logic. Ilara's gaze never left the High Mind. Good. Keep pushing. We don't just fight. We teach. As the battle raged, the Ardent Reborn descended to the planet's surface. The volcanic crystal below reflected the light of weapons fire, creating a world bathed in red and violet flames. At the planet's core, the team found the last child of the builders, a single, immense construct, delicate and terrifying, a living echo of creation itself. The obelisk of Krith energy trembled, and then a voice filled their minds. You are here to destroy what we built. Ilara stepped forward. No, we are here to make you understand. Your children, the Krith, have forgotten purpose. They destroy without reason. Humanity fights not for power, but for memory, for life, for honor. The construct pulsed. Your chaos defies order. Your emotion confounds calculation. Then learn, Ilara said. Learn what it means to protect life, not just follow law. Learn why you exist. Learn what mercy is. The ground trembled. Energy surged around them as the construct tried to assimilate, to erase the human presence. But humanity's resilience, fear, hope, grief, love, was unpredictable, unquantifiable. On orbit, the fleet witnessed an impossible sight. Krith ships faltering mid-flight, retreating not from force but from hesitation. Their perfect coordination faltered under the unrelenting drive of human ingenuity. Below, the obelisk shimmered and fractured, shedding fragments of energy that scattered like fireflies into the violet sky. The voice of the last child of the builders spoke again, gentler now. Perhaps there is meaning in your chaos. Perhaps you are worthy. Ilara looked to Ryan. Do you hear that? Yes, he whispered. We didn't just fight, we taught. The obelisk pulsed once more, sending a wave of light across Krith Prime. The energy did not destroy. It illuminated, revealing the once lost ruins of a civilization, showing the Krith their history, their mistakes, their purpose. The high mind, vast and incomprehensible, recoiled. It seemed to think for the first time without instinct, without command. The Krith ships pulled back, leaving the humans in orbit unscathed. For the first time in history, humanity had faced the architects of destruction and emerged not as conquerors, but as teachers. Alara's voice broke the silence. We fight not because we must, but because we remember, and we remember for everyone we've lost. Rian looked out at the illuminated Krith cities below. Do you think they'll change? Alara's eyes softened. They will try, and we will be here to make sure they never forget what it means to face humans and survive, not just with their lives, but with understanding. That night, the stars above Krith Prime were quiet. The fires of war had burned themselves out. Humanity had proven once again why no one survives fighting them, not because they cannot fall, but because even in the heart of death they rise, adapt, and teach the universe the meaning of life itself. And somewhere deep within the fractured core of the Krith high mind, a single thought remained. Chaos can be beautiful. The galaxy was silent but not empty, not anymore. From orbit around Krith Prime, the ardent reborn looked down on a world reshaped by knowledge and fire. Cities glowed faintly under violet skies. Energy streams arced like veins across black crystal mountains. Ships drifted in orbit, battered but alive. Shadows of the fleets that had dared to challenge humanity. Captain Alara Quinn stood at the bridge, eyes reflecting the fractured light of the planet below. Her crew watched her, silent but ready. Each had seen too much, lost too many to speak. The weight of the universe pressed in on them, yet they bore it with quiet pride. They will remember this, Alara said softly. Not because we destroyed them, but because we endured. Because we never gave up. Humanity stands, not as conquerors, but as witnesses of life's value. Lieutenant Rian Solis leaned against the console, watching distant Krith vessels stabilize. They'll rebuild. They'll learn. Eventually. The question is, will they remember who they face next time? Alara smiled faintly, a mixture of fatigue and defiance. They will, and that will be enough. Below, Krith Prime's obelisk, the last child of the builders, pulsed with a serene glow. Energy rippled outward, repairing fractured landscapes, awakening dormant cities, teaching the Krith their lost history. Where once there had been destruction, there was now reflection. In orbit, remnants of the Krith fleet slowly assembled, no longer hostile, but cautious. For the first time, the universe saw them hesitate, uncertain before a force they could not predict, could not control. They were learning, as humans had hoped they would, the value of restraint, of thought, of mercy. The Terran Unity fleet remained vigilant, engines humming, weapons primed but idle. Humanity did not celebrate, for they had learned the cost of survival, the pain of losing billions, the weight of every decision made under fire. But there was pride in their perseverance, pride in having endured. Alara's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. All units prepare for departure. We've made our point and it's time to return. The galaxy is vast and humanity still has worlds to protect, lives to defend, and a legacy to uphold. The fleet responded with a chorus of acknowledgments. Each voice was tempered by exhaustion, grief, and awe. They had faced annihilation and stared back at death itself, and humanity had survived. As they left orbit, Krith Prime shrinking beneath them, Alara spoke again quietly, almost to herself. No one survived fighting humanity, not because we are invincible, but because we carry the fire of life in every choice, in every breath. They will remember that. Beyond the veil, the darkness held secret still. Ancient civilizations, drifting ships, and silent worlds waited. Yet the galaxy had learned something new. Life would fight back, fiercely and without surrender when threatened. Humanity's mark had been etched across the stars, a warning written not in conquest but in endurance. On the bridge, crew members glanced at each other, tired but alive. There was mourning for the fallen, names etched into memory, faces carried in hearts. There was hope for the living, a chance to rebuild, to explore, to witness the beauty of creation instead of succumbing to fear. Rian watched the stars slide past the viewport, Do you think we'll ever see the Krith again? Ilara's gaze remained fixed forward. We will. And when we do, they will know. Humanity fights not for glory, not for dominance, but for the right to exist. And they will remember it forever. Across the dark expanse, the Krith fleets realigned, hesitation now etched into their movements. Their high mind, fractured but alive, considered humanity anew. Logic and calculation faltered before the impossible. A species that fought not merely with weapons, but with courage, love, hope, and the indomitable will to endure. Somewhere, deep within the reconstructed obelisk on Krith Prime, a whisper of thought traveled through the Krith mind. Chaos can be beautiful, life must be protected, and so, humanity returned to the stars, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned, in no uncertain terms, a truth the universe would carry forever. No one survived fighting humanity. Fleets burned, worlds shattered, but the spirit endured. The Ardent reborn and its fleet sailed onward, toward new stars, new challenges, and new worlds. They bore the scars of countless battles, but they carried with them something no weapon could destroy. The fire of life itself, fierce and unyielding across the infinite darkness of the cosmos. And in that fire, humanity's story, unbroken, unstoppable, unforgettable, would continue.